Colonel Newsham, about what is your perception, especially the last 24 hours, the campaign that has obviously gained crescendo, and there have been attacks and counterattacks, but the celebrity star power that Kamala Harris has gotten, is this going to make impact for her in a positive way come 5th of November?
Well, I don't think it's going to make a huge difference at this point. The voting has already started. A lot of people have already cast their votes, and I think the information's been out there. I think most people have probably made up their minds by now. This has certainly been one of the weirdest campaigns that I've ever seen in my lifetime. You see a sort of an air of desperation in parts of it, but there's a hatred that one notes that almost resembles 30 years war kind of hatred. But I say it's a very unusual election. The way Vice President Harris was put into as the candidate, well, that's something that I've never seen. I don't think anyone has. And there's certainly been a real lack of interest in understanding exactly how that decision was made on the part of the media. Additionally, there were millions of people who voted for President Biden to be the candidate. Apparently their votes didn't count. And we just had that sudden switch. So this is something I've never seen, plus 2 assassination attempts on President Trump, and one of them missed by the closest fraction of distance that you can imagine. If he had been killed, who knows what would have happened to the country, but this is something that's very, very unusual, and it's really going to be something that's going to keep a lot of us sort of wondering exactly what's next. Hopefully we'll get through this, but as I say, I've never seen anything like this.
Okay, let's take a look at all the poll numbers that are coming in. Now the latest polls, it has been a mixed bag, but up until now majority of these polls were giving Kamala Harris the edge. And suddenly in the last 24 hours, whether it is the Financial Times vote or we talk about the Wall Street Journal and there are some other votes, the Forbes vote, the Forbes poll, they've all put Donald Trump, who's edging past Kamala Harris with about a point or 2 points. The margin may be very minuscule, but he seems to be moving forward, especially what do you think may have worked, or what are these poll projections implying?
One can take the polls as they are. I think the polls that really matter are not the national ones, but rather the polls in the 7 battleground states, the swing states, that could go either way. And the polls appear to be within the margin of error, which means that you or I could make as good a guess as the pollsters can. But it does show that it is going to be very close. I think depending on which side one supports in a race, there's a sort of an incredulity that anybody would vote for the other side. But that's been the case in the U.S. for at least 25 years, where it does seem to be split fairly evenly down the population. So these are going to be very close once again.
There's also this sentiment, these reports going around that there has been support of black men that Trump has been getting in the recent days. If that's true, and if he's able to woo the black voters, who primarily have been voting for Democrats over the past several years and decades, what do you think must be working for Trump, especially in his bid to attract their voters?
Well, whatever he's saying seems to be working, if the polls are to be believed. This is certainly a constituency which he has not gotten much support from in the past. There's also evidence that in the Hispanic population, that a good chunk of that is going to President Trump as well. That's something that is new, and we'll find out. It's certainly something that works in his favor if it does come to pass.
Do you think foreign policy is something that the average American at this point of time is considering when he casts his vote, whether it is the Ukraine war or the West Asia crisis?
I think people like me do, but I'm not sure that most people do. I think that a lot of people vote for sort of based on their personal circumstances, their job, how much money they have, can they take care of their children, can they afford groceries, can they fill up their car. That's, I think, what motivates most people when they vote in the United States. In fact, it is interesting just how little the foreign affairs, China, Ukraine, Middle East, has come up during this campaign. And that is, it's a little unusual because it usually gets more mention than that. But in this case, it's striking by its absence. And as I said, most people don't vote on foreign affairs. At least that's been my observation over the years. I say I often do, but I'm not sure that too many other people do.
Right, absolutely, because there were these targeted jibes at Kamala Harris talking about how young she is, even though she's 60, but when it comes to the veterans like Biden and Trump, she's way younger, a couple of decades younger than they are, and Trump has been time and again saying that the way Kamala Harris has been campaigning, there has not been a single new innovative idea or a campaign that Kamala Harris has been able to furbish. She has been working in the shadow of her president, who's Joe Biden, so she doesn't bring anything new to the table.
Well, that's a fair argument. One can see how well she's done, how well she's produced, what she's been responsible for, what she's achieved, and that is not readily apparent. I would say I've never seen a candidate run for office and try to avoid the press the way Vice President Harris has. This is something very unusual, and it's not a coincidence. There's probably a reason why they don't want her in front of the press, but this is something that goes to the fundamental nature of a fair election, a free election. Is you want the voting public to be as informed as possible when one candidate does everything they can to stay away from the press, from having their positions, their experiences put out for display, that it's a very unhealthy thing for democracy, and it's extremely troubling the way that they have, in fact, avoided the press and almost tried to run out the clock. It seems it's really not fair to the voters not to have a good look at who exactly she is. But I would note that Mr. Trump's energy is impressive, to put it mildly, not least after having come within a hair's breadth of being killed. And he's just back on the campaign trail, and he's going to rallies, talking to everybody, talking to the press as well. And it's really something to behold. He's 80 years old, or almost 80 years old, and seems to have the energy of about a 23-year-old.
Okay, that has been an allegation, that has been an attack on Kamala Harris for this. Why does she not give more press interviews? Why is she not as accessible as Donald Trump is? But the point is that ever since that criticism hit home, she has been giving these press interviews. She has been doing these rallies. She has been attending these town halls and addressing the public. And to add things to Kamala Harris's argument, she was the one who was encouraging Donald Trump to have the third presidential debate, the second one with her. But it was Donald Trump who said he was not keen to do so.
Well, actually, she started to be a little more accessible after the voting has already started and people have already made their decisions. Plus, it's really much too late in the process to jump in here. And once again, there's a reason why you keep a candidate away from the media, and it's generally not a good reason. As far as an extra debate, well, I had been watching these for a while, and if I was a Republican, I wouldn't get anywhere near one, the way that they are set up against the Republican candidates. And that's, if it was being done to a Democrat candidate, what so happened to Mr. Trump and J.D. Vance as well, I would be very upset about that.
Okay, talking about, you touched upon the subject of economy, and it is very important for an average American to fight inflation, to be able to earn his livelihood, to be able to have a better lifestyle, and if pollsters are to be believed in terms of the projections they make, Trump has been trumping ahead and leaving Kamala Harris behind when it comes to the subject of economy. It seems as if the people of America are more trustful of Trump in handing over the country and its state of affairs when it comes to the economy.
Well, they ought to be. All you have to do is go into the grocery store and see what things cost, or go fill up your car with gasoline. Look at your rent, look at mortgage rates. By any measure, if you look back 4 years, things were better then. Ronald Reagan successfully used that pitch as well. Were you better off 4 years ago than you are now? But this is just, it's part of the game, and it's surprising that the Republicans have not made more of this. I think that was a failing in their strategy, because it is something that does hit every person individually, and it hits everyone unless you've got a lot of money. But for most Americans, the state of the economy, and particularly inflation costs, are out of control, and they don't want to hear, well, it's somebody else's fault. Ultimately, the person who gets the blame are the people who've been running the administration. But this is something that is very hard to argue against, as I see it.
Okay, and also, it was in July when President Joe Biden stepped down from the race of the presidential elections, race to the White House. It was Kamala Harris that replaced him, and her ratings, her approval ratings skyrocketed. They were much higher than Donald Trump. Do you think the country is now ready for a first American president, and mind you, first American black president?
Well, I thought Barack Obama was a black president.
Woman black president.
Well, we've been ready for one for a long time, and there's female candidates who, if they had run, would have had a very good chance. I don't consider it all that big a deal. People, I hope, look at the capabilities of a candidate, but I don't see that this is being earth-shattering just by virtue of what her background is. America's been ready for this for a long time. Look at this. We've had, Colin Powell. We just go down the list. We've had any number of minorities who've reached the very highest levels in our system. So this is, to me, this is not something that really matters much. You look at the capabilities, the qualities of a candidate, you look at how well they've performed throughout their careers when they've been in positions of responsibility, and you make your decisions based on that. It's simply not a question of the hue of sort of one's skin or one's sort of ethnic background.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.